seems so foreign, you know, but the things you're talking about, the idea of the whole mental, psychological structure of things, it is, in fact, architecture.
Yeah, I think so. And you know, it's interesting in computer graphics, there's vector programs and there's pixel programs, and like Photoshop is a pixel program, whereas Illustrator, you know, drawing programs are vector programs. And what that means is you put your stylus down and you draw a line, and there's maybe a million permutations of how you can modify that line, but it's dot to dot. That's what a vector is. And pixels are the spots, like in newspapers or on television or so forth. And so I thought it was fascinating when the way Raphael compartmentalizes his art. And I think in the article, we had this long talk about the lunar landscape in terms of this and the American and Russian space programs. And then he started talking about this whole body of work that he did on Mars. And he said, I can't remember exactly what he said, but he said, well, that was that, and this is this. Like, they don't intersect at all, you know? Like I would know. And I think it's like that cross-sectioning that he does in this massive think tank that he's got going on in his head all the time. Yeah. Interesting guy.
Yeah, most definitely. And that's, sorry.
These for me just are like windows into to the future and also into the past, because that cross-section thing that we look at when we look at images in a petri dish, which is almost like the cells and the structures, is to take us back to a very, very elemental place. But it sort of makes sense given this press release that this is somehow all the way back from El Dorado to the future.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it encompasses both extremes, and somehow this is sort of like a compressed experience of all that, the accumulated what's in between El Dorado and the future.
Which is another vector, right?
Yeah.
Raphael has arrived! Yay! We come into the conversation perfectly. Because Janet's been taking it away. It's good, good. So, I don't know.
We were talking about the architecture of your thinking. In a very broad
Tell me about
sense. Well, we've got it all figured out now. So.
We've got you figured out, apparently.
Somebody does.
But I don't know if what you would like to talk about the work, anything in particular, or.
Well, one of the things that when Esperanza and I were talking about the show, and she was in the studio looking at basically a lot of the work as it was in progress, is one of the things I told her that if and when this work was shown, I wanted to emphasize movement, and that these images, these paintings are of geometry that's actually based on real things that are in movement, and they're moving at really, really high speeds in space. Part of spacecraft and satellites. So I wanted to make the show eventually to be able to show motion, that there's just movement in the geometry. Even though they're still objects hanging on a wall, I wanted to be able to show some kind of a movement. And once I got here and I started figuring out the installation, I realized that I could just extend the existing geometry within the pictures out onto the walls, and then have somehow this extended geometry become part of the space, and sort of start trying to work together as one cohesive, sort of almost like moving kind of things. So I did want to emphasize as I was finishing the work and thinking about the show, that these things are in fact things that the material itself, and then the images of things that are in motion, even though right now